What the frick? What is up, everybody? It is Mars Sports. It's your boy Marshall. Today, we got another tier list video. It's not tier list Tuesday, it's tier list Thursday, I guess, in this case. Yeah, but today, we're going to be all, or rating all 33 FBS head coaching hires for the 2026 season. Let's be honest here. There were a lot of, this was a pretty wild off season when it comes to coaching hires. You had the Lane Kiffin stuff. You had the Sherrone Moore controversy that led to Kyle Whittingham getting hired. You also had James Franklin finding where to go, and then Penn State trying to find a coach, and Crumble Cookie keeping Kalani Sitake at BYU. So yeah, but today we're gonna be doing a tier list of all these hires, and yeah, it's gonna be a very fun video. So let's do it. So after doing the math, um, this is what I got. So roughly a quarter of the coaches are brand new this year. As 33 divided by 138. This is FBS. It's 23.2391. That means it's 23.91% of teams have a new head coach this year. So yeah, we're gonna rank all of them from worst to whatever, blah blah blah. You get it. This is what I counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. Okay, there we go. So we got 33 hires. Let me know if I missed one because I mean, there's a lot of teams in college football, and it might be bound to miss one. You never know. Anyways, let's do this. So, let's start off. We're gonna go by conference, and well, in this case, no conference. I was gonna start with the one independent that hired this year, as is in a brand new era of football, a very hopeful era, as Jim Mora leaves become the coach of Colorado State, which I mean, I guess the reason why he's doing that so he's actually in the conference. And no, not everyone is Notre Dame, but yeah, but there's that. But wait, is it really showing this? Hold on. Yeah, but what the heck? There we go. Anyways, but they hired Jim Mora to be their new head coach. Jim Mora or excuse me, sorry. They hired Jason Candle to be their new head coach. By the way, UConn had 9 wins last year, which I don't think that's like 2 years in a row they had 9 wins. That's pretty impressive. They hired Jason Candle as their new coach. I think this is honestly, it's a solid hire. Jason Candle is good at Toledo for as long as he was there for. Um, and I think UConn will be under good hands with him. Uh, Maybe next season might be a little bit of a rebuild, but I could see them being decent next year. So UConn, I'll give Jason Candle higher B tier. Now we got Kent State. I gotta say it, man. Kent State actually looked okay actually did not look terrible last year. That same team that went 0 and 12 like a few years ago, like 2024. They went 5 and 7 last year, but not terribly. We're not far from a bowl game, so give them credit where credit's due. Kent State, honestly. Mark Carney's actually done considering what Kent State's standards are, he's actually done a pretty solid job there. Like he moved them from 0 to 5 wins, and they could honestly be a bowl eligible team next year at this rate. That's probably the goal for next year. I'm not saying playoff team, but maybe they could at least have a winning record next year. But Kent State, man, credit to Mark Carney, they've gotten actually a lot better under him, considering where they were like a few years ago. So overall, I'll give Kent State a B tier. By the way, my office chair is en route, so yeah, I'm using a kitchen chair. Don't ask. All right. Anyways, Toledo. Toledo went out and hired. Who was it they hired? Mike Jacobs they hired, who was at Mercer, head coach of Mercer back then. Interesting hire here. Toledo's usually one of the better MAC teams, and J.C. Candle has put him in a good spot. Like they nearly beat Kentucky last year, and then the year before that they smashed Mississippi State on the road. So like, Toledo's one of those teams that are actually a solid group of five program. So I think this hire is interesting because one my only concern with this one is that Mike Jacobs doesn't have many FBS head coaching experience, but honestly, I think it could really work out well for this one. It's a whole new league. The MAC's going to be more interesting, but I think Mike Jacobs got potential. I'll give this one a C tier, but I think it has potential to go. I think it could go either way, honestly, just because the FBS is a whole new beast. Yeah. Now we have Ohio, and this one was This one was a very like not a controversial way to go out for the coach Ohio Brian Smith, who was the former coach. He got into trouble uh for what is it? Let's see. What does he get in trouble for? Looking it up. So why is um just loaded already? Jesus. But he got in trouble for assault. He got his apparently serious professional misconduct and participating in activities that reflect unfavorably on the university. As that's actually as Ohio actually like I think they got 9 or 10 wins last year, something like that. Yeah, they were actually a good team last year, but no, Brian Smith is gone. Just due to the controversy that's surrounding him. But they hired who they hired? Who was the guy that wasn't on the NBC CBS website? Probably because it was a very sudden one. Um, but like Ohio was a good MAC team last year, good G5 team last year. They beat West Virginia and all that. So yeah, fun fact, I actually predicted that to come true. Yeah, but John Hauser's the new coach. He as he was promoted from the defensive coordinator. This is an interim, I believe, for now. But I mean, I'm not gonna take too much stock into this. But I mean, it's an interesting hire. I think he could be successful. Ohio's a pretty good football program. I'm gonna say, I don't know. I'll say it's either between C or D. I'll say D just because of the circumstances. It's not really necessarily their fault, but I'll say D just because the circumstances are interesting. Now we have Colorado State hiring Jim Mora. This is a super underrated hire in my opinion. Like Jim Mora, the job at UConn, a team that's not very usually historically known for being good at football. He made them like really good. Like they had 9 wins for 2 years in a row. Like he made UConn actually look like a really good team. And now that it's actually going to be in the conference, and Colorado State, a team that was not very good last year, but they've had some good seasons in the past. Um, I think he's going to put Colorado State in a really good spot. I mean, he'll be in the conference now, but like honestly, it's borderline S in my opinion. I'm gonna say A tier. This is an A tier hire. I think Jim Moore's gonna do a really good job at Colorado State. Now we got Washington State. Who they hire? They hired the Missouri offensive coordinator, I'm pretty sure. As they hired, why is this thing glitching? Where the frick is it? Good Lord. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find it. But they hired Kirby Moore. Is his middle name Smart? Who was the offensive coordinator at uh Missouri. Um, Overall, I think Washington State. I think with Washington State's gone through a lot in Oregon State as well. Because the Pac-12 was two teams for a while. A lot of people did not want to be at that point, but I mean they're in a conference now, so there's that. But hiring the offensive coordinator for Missouri, I mean I think that's a solid. I think that could have potential. Um, I don't. Missouri's been pretty good. Um, but he has no head coaching experience. I think it could be an interest. It could be. I think it could go either way. I'll put this as a C tier. I think Wazoo could be a pretty good team next year. We'll see. It depends on how the new Pac-12 is. But yeah. Next up is Oregon State. Oregon State, they hired what's his name? The guy from Alabama. Uh Jamarcus Shepard, who is a co-offensive coordinator at Alabama. Uh Overall, I think this is a good hire. I think Oregon State was so god awful last year, but they were competitive in a lot of their games, to be fair. So, like they took Houston to overtime, but they also did lose to Sam Houston State and gave them their like one of their only wins of the year. But Oregon State, I mean, they might. I think hiring some from Alabama's gonna know it's not Saban anymore, but still, I think that's a solid hire. Alabama's been a good team. You hire a guy who's had playoff experience. I think that's good. But I'll say B tier is going to be the great idea. That one, God dang it. Let's see. Sorry. Anyways, Missouri State. I completely forgot Missouri State has a new coach this year. But Missouri State went out and hired who they hire? Who they hire? Who they hire? Who they hire? They hired Casey Woods, SMU offensive coordinator. I think this was a decent hire. They actually gave SMU a scare last year. when they played them, but Southern Methodist. But SMU, I mean, they've been good. They've had really good. Uh, they have a really good like. They've been really good since they joined the ACC. Of course, they made the conference that first year, almost won the conference, of course. And then they were pretty good. And then they're a solid team last year too. They went 9-4. Yeah, but I think they're a solid hire. Missouri State's one of those teams that actually look solid, pretty good in their first year in the FBS. They got 7 or 8 wins. I forgot. Um, the Missouri State bowl game. Um, oh yeah, they lost to Arkansas State. I forgot about that. Yeah, but Missouri State, I'll get that one a C tier. I think that could honestly go either way. We'll see. But I think for a team like Missouri State, it works out well. NIU. This one's a kind of a late hire. I'm pretty sure this is an interim position. Actually, I think I mixed up Ohio and I. But Thomas Hammock left kind of late in the offseason. You get the running backs coach at Seattle, at the Seahawks, who just won the Super Bowl, of course. So, I mean, Thomas Hammock did his job there. I know that they weren't great last year, but still, they had basically no return production last year. But they hired, I think this is an interim for this year, Northern Illinois coach. It was Mazurek. No, that's basketball. Sorry. Uh, let's see. And by the way, they're not using the Mount West now, so that's interesting. Rob Harley is their new coach. As uh, as he where was he? I believe he was one of the coordinators for them. Defensive coordinator Rob Harley. He was a defensive coordinator. Kind of a weird hire. It's in-house, which I can respect. It's kind of a weird hire. But I mean, NIU's had success. I know they weren't great last year, but I don't expect them. I don't know if I expect them to be that good next year. But yeah, but NIU, I'll give this one a D tier. I know the circumstances weren't great. Yeah. Um, Now we have Tulane. Whew, I have some opinions on this one. Okay. This is better than them taking Blake Baker. I will take that. They almost took Blake Baker away from LSU, so at least Blake Baker stays at LSU, which is nice. Although if LSU's defense is really good again this upcoming season, then Blake Baker might not be at LSU because he might get deservingly promoted to head coach somewhere. But yeah, Blake Baker's a really good defensive coordinator. Anyways, Tulane lost John Summerall after a really good playoff run, or after a really good season, and well, not really good playoff run. The playoff run sucked, but after making the playoffs, for the first time in school history, I know G5's only gotten invites the last few years, but still. But Tulane is a probably one of the more is definitely one of the more consistent group of five programs for football lately. Or I guess G6 now. I mean, they beat USC in that bowl game a few years ago, the Cotton Bowl. I was at that game, by the way. That was an amazing game. Probably the best Cotton Bowl I've ever seen in person. But Tulane, though, they lost John Summerall, just part of the system at this point. But Tulane went out and hired Will Hall as their next head coach, who was an assistant, I believe, for them. Uh, as But yeah, he's a veteran assistant is what they said. But yeah, but I'll be completely honest with you. I'm not a fan of this hire. I know Tulane's one of LSU's rivals, even though we haven't played them in a while. But battle for the rag, of course. But like, I'll be honest with you, this is not a good hire in my opinion. This is a very suspicious hire because Tulane. I'll be honest with you. Tulane's been good. They have Willie Fritz. He was really good. There's a reason why he's at Houston now. There's a reason why John Summerall is at Florida now. But Will Hall, last time he was a head coach, he went 1-11 at Southern Miss in the Sun Belt. So I have my questions with this one. I'll be honest with you. I think Tulane. I think he'll be better this year than he was at Southern Miss purely because Tulane's a better football program than a much better football program than um Southern Miss. Yes, Charles Huff did a good job with Southern Miss concerning circumstances, but Will Hall was not good at Southern Miss. Like he went 1-11 that year. I don't know. I don't know how long he was there, but like it does raise my suspicions a bit, in my opinion. But nothing against Will Hall as a person. He's a good assistant, but like Tulane's lost a lot this year. Jake Retzloff went to the draft. The others left. Like Tulane or I know Jake Retzloff didn't get drafted, but still. But Tulane is uh, Tulane might not is not gonna be as good as they were last year. I don't think. Watch he goes undefeated. Yeah, but big voice correct. But Tulane though, Will Hall hire. I'm not a fan of this one. I think this one's definitely a very weird hire. And Will Hall, his track record does isn't as a head coach isn't really that good. I'm gonna put honestly, I hate to do this, but I'm gonna put this as an F tier hire. It's just I don't trust Will Hall. Man, like that was that I have my questions. I think Tulane could be a good team. I have them going like 8-4 this year, but I do see a downgrade coming. Like maybe he'll learn from Southern Miss, but we'll see. The more doubt, the more motivated, I guess. So here you go. But I mean, I wish him the best. Obviously, I know it's Tulane, but still, actually, I don't even dislike Tulane that much. I don't even have any hate towards Tulane, honestly. Well, unless they're playing LSU, but yeah. But I mean, just say that, but we just own Tulane, bro. Although I will admit I was disappointed to see Tulane instead of North Texas in the playoffs, but whatever. Yeah, Tulane though, that's an F tier hire. I'm not a fan of that one. Now we got UAB. UAB, I mean, they had so many options. They went with Alex Mortensen as their next head coach. Um, yes. I know Alex Mortensen, the minute he took over, got that win against Memphis. I know that happened. That was a pretty epic moment for the program. I know that they beat Memphis when they were undefeated at the time. But outside of that, UAB was not good last year. Like Trent Dilfer got fired, of course, mid-season. Um, trying to find, let's see, 2025 schedule. But like, let's see. Yeah, they got beat up by a lot of teams last year. And they beat Tulsa, I'll give you that, but Tulsa's not that good. But like they went 3-9 or 4-8 last year. They weren't that good of a team. But Alex Mortensen, I think I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. It's his team now, and he granted he was under very crappy circumstances, but still, I don't know if this is the best hire in my opinion. I think he could be good. He should have stayed as an assistant. He could, but like they had like Mike Gundy, Brian Kelly. Like I know they weren't those high profile hires, but still, they had other options. I will say. Um, I mean, I guess if you can build stability, I don't know, but I'll get us on a D tier because I think he does have potential. But I think it's his team now. It's not like the disaster Trent Dilfer had. But UAB though, I just think that yeah they need they're not a great football program. Wow, I stuttered a lot. Jeez, they're not that great of a football program. Yes, I know they beat LSU back in 2000 when Nick Saban was LSU's coach, but still, I still think that yeah. Um, there's that. Anyways, South Florida. Sorry, just verifying something. Oh wow. Okay. Anyways, South Florida. South Florida was a really good team last year. They went 9-3 last year. They beat Florida on the road. They were really good last year. They're so good. Alex Mortensen left to go to Auburn, and we'll get to Auburn in a bit. Um, not Alex Mortensen. Alex Golish. Sorry. Wrong Alex. But they hired what's his name, Brian Hartline from Ohio State. Let's see, where the heck is it? Um, so I'm trying to find. There we go. Yeah, but they hired Brian Hartline from Ohio State as honestly, I think this is a good hire for them. That you're grabbing from maybe the most arguably the most successful football program in the last decade. Um, and I think like he who's really good at Ohio State, of course. Like Ohio State has a like Ohio State is like a powerhouse when it comes to coordinators. Like you see like a lot of coordinators out there. That in Alabama, obviously. Um, but like, but Brian Hartline, I think he's got a really good team this year. They're in rebuild. I mean, well, in some ways they're in rebuild. Like they lost a lot of players to Auburn, but I think Brian Hartline has a chance to reload the team. He's got Michael Van Buren, former LSU quarterback, as the quarterback, and of course he's at Mississippi State as well. But I mean, he can develop him pretty well. So he was on the same. He was the coordinator for Julian Sand. So yeah, overall, though, I think this is a good hire. I think that South Florida is set to be a good team next year. I'm gonna say this is an A tier hire. I think this is a good hire. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna say this is a B. Just because I mean he doesn't have any head coaching experience, but like I think overall he could be really good. So yeah. Now we have North Texas. North Texas is in a very, very, very weird spot right now. They were really good last year. Eric Morris built a really, really good team. And so good that he took his whole team to Oklahoma State. And we'll get to Oklahoma State towards the end of the video. But North Texas lost everyone. By the way, North Texas is the college I was originally going to go to before I moved here. But North Texas though, they're or UNT as we call them in up here or in Texas. UNT's got a lot to rebuild off of this year. I know people go to UNT by the way. Yeah, shout out to my UNT peoples. Yeah, but they hired Neil Brown as their next coach. Honestly, the hire itself is actually not a bad hire. I think it's a solid hire. So I mean, Neil Brown's got head coaching experience. Yes, I know West Virginia wasn't great under him, but I mean, dude has previous G5 success, and I think that could play in his favor. Yeah, there's that. But by the way, I'm gonna like move these like where I rank them. I'll probably left to right where I rank them. Uh, I think I don't know. Uh, let's see. Ohio. There you go. And then yeah. All right, so I rank them like this. North Texas though, because they might be on the same tier, but like they might be different from each other. But North Texas though, hire Neil Brown. I think honestly, Neil Brown has had good G5 success. Like he beat LSU when he was at Troy. But uh, but yeah, Neil Brown though, I think he's got a lot of potential to. I think UNT is definitely going to be in a rebuild year, but I think he's got a lot of potential at least getting a bowl eligible at least because the standards gotten higher in North Texas, no doubt about it for the future. But like when it comes to like the immediate next year, like it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard to like build off that. But North Texas can get good really quick. Like we saw that with Eric Morris. He went from 6-6. I'm pretty sure it took a while, but like it takes a long time, but it can be quick too. Like they went from 6-7 to 12-2 the next season. Like they've got some stuff for them. So yeah, North Texas though, I will get this one a B tier. I'll put it behind South Florida's higher. I do think Neil Brown, I think that's a better fit for him in the G5. So yeah. Now we got Memphis. Memphis hired Charles Huff to be their next head coach. And honestly, Charles is one of the more underrated coaches out there, man. Like he lets Marshall to a Sun Belt title, and like they crushed Louisiana game, I'm pretty sure. And then he went off to Southern Miss and turned them from 111, turned to 111 to like 7-6 the next season. And he got promoted to Memphis. Yeah, last year's not the greatest season, obviously. It's still pretty, but for like Southern Miss standards, that's really good, I think, especially considering last season. Charles Huff, though, I think this is a good hire. I think him being at Memphis, I think that's going to be interesting to see what happens. Because I mean, he'll have a lot more resources. I mean, I believe Charles Huff, yeah, Charles Huff was a former assistant for Nick Saban in Alabama in the 2020 national championship, but which is one of the best college football teams of all time. But I think he's got a lot of potential to be really good at Memphis. He's got a lot more resources than Southern Miss. Because I will admit, Marshall to Southern Miss was kind of a downgrade in like program wise, but like you're going up from Southern Miss to, and he did a great job improving Southern Miss, that's for sure. Now he's going to Memphis, and honestly, I think he'll have Memphis in pretty good hands. He hired Brian Kelly as an unpaid consultant, which I think is interesting. Yeah, but Memphis, though, I think is honestly a very solid hire. I'm gonna say this is B tier. I'll put in front of North Texas for Neil Brown. Yeah, but I think that's a solid hire. I think Charles Huff is potentially really good there next year. Now we have Southern Miss. Southern Miss. Southern Miss was actually a solid team last year under Charles Huff. But Charles Huff was so good he left. He went to Memphis, and at this rate, I could see Charles Huff getting a power forward job pretty soon, within the next few years. But with the way he's going, like he's progressing up higher and higher and higher. So, yeah, but Southern Miss they hired who they hire? They hired Blake Anderson, who is the offensive coordinator. Oh, geez, that's a who's the offensive coordinator at who's promoted from offensive coordinator. So they are hiring in house, but thing is, Southern Miss CBS gives them an F. Jeez, but oh wow, yeah, but there's a lot of controversy with this hire between Blake Anderson. As at Utah State, apparently he didn't report a crime that a player made, so that led to his firing, which broke a law. So this is for sure a controversial hiring. Um, and I'm kind of surprised they hired in house, but we'll see what happens. I didn't realize Blake Anderson had all those issues, but CBS gives him an F, which is insane to me, dog. What do I know? But I mean, I look more into it, which is pretty bold. Insane because it's pretty bold, not because I disagree or anything. But yeah, but I mean, Southern Miss. Let me look at their stats from last year. Southern Miss overall, they're not usually the best football program, but like under Charles Huff, they looked actually pretty good, like for their standards. They're very competitive in a lot of games too. Let's see. Um, yeah, but offensive coordinator would be interesting. As long if he can recover from Utah State stuff, I think it'd be interesting. But I do think it's kind of a weird hire just because like Southern Miss could have gone somewhere else, gotten someone else. But I mean, I guess you do promote this offensive coordinator. I'm not gonna give this one an F just cause yeah, but I'll give it a D just because the controversy that's along with it. I'll put it above NIU and UAB just because I do think that Southern Miss has more momentum with him on a football standpoint. Now we have James Madison. James Madison made the playoffs last year, considering they're third in the FBS. That's really impressive. Of course, they've had a lot of great coaches in the past. They've had Kurt Cignetti as their head coach, and he did so good he went to Indiana. Now look what he did to Indiana. I mean, Indiana's a national powerhouse now. After being trashed forever. And then and then Bob Chesney was their coach for 2 years, and he made the playoffs under them. Bob Chesney was really good, and he's actually going off. He did so good, he's going to a different team. That he's leaving for UCLA. But James Madison though, they got a lot of stuff going for them. But they went out and hired Billy Napier as their next head coach, or as Squid Sports would say, Billy Napier. Anyways, honestly, I know Billy Napier's stint at Florida wasn't the best. Honestly, though, for G5 standards, I think this is actually a good hire. Like, there's a reason why people call him Sunbelt Billy. I know it's more like mocking him, but JMU under Billy Napier has a lot of potential, in my opinion. Like, I think that oh wow. Oh, there it is. But I mean, he's coming back to the Sun Belt with with SEC experience. Uh, like he's got a lot of things going for him. Like Billy Napier's got he's got a good team for him. We can call his phone. Wikipedia. I didn't realize he was the same age. I didn't realize he was born in 1979. Oh, I didn't realize he was only 46. His birthday's coming up in a few weeks. It's also our anniversary is the same day. Yeah, but like, dude actually looked really good with dude looked really good with Louisiana. There's a reason why he got hired there. So honestly, Billy Napier coming back to the Sun Belt's gonna be very interesting. Overall though, this might be controversial. I'm gonna say this is an A tier hire. I know that Billy Napier's didn't end well at Florida. He showed potential at Florida, to be fair. And Florida's football program has not been great the last few years, but he's at JMU, a really good G5 program. I think Billy Napier's got a lot of potential. I think he'll keep JMU in a good spot. And honestly, I think that something about Billy Todd will be back. So yeah, but I'm gonna get the A tier. So Coastal Carolina, Coastal Carolina went out and hired. Who was the guy they had? Because James, I think they fired the other guy. Who was it? Jamie Chadwell? No, Tim Beck. As they hired Ryan Beard as their next head coach from Missouri State. Honestly, that's a decent hire. I mean, Missouri State. Considering that Missouri State was on the FBS for in their first year, like it was their first year in FBS, he actually did a pretty good job. He gets out of the Miss for the money. So I mean, honestly, Coastal Carolina just needs an offense, like a more consistently successful offense. Then I think they're in good shape. Coastal Carolina, because I will admit their offense had a lot of issues last year. But honestly, let me see Missouri State's record. Missouri State football. Oh, geez. Um. Oh, geez. They're opening up against A&M. That's rough. Anyways, check in 2020. Come on, load the date. Okay, there we go. But like, let's see. Honestly, I guess their offense was decent. Yeah, but I think this is a okay hire. Um, because I mean, the dude showed success in his first season. He'll be at a team that has had success in the past, but they haven't been as good lately. But still, but I think that's honestly a solid hire. I'm gonna say this one is a. I'll say this one's a C tier. I think they'll put it behind Missouri State's higher. Yeah. But anyways, now all the G5s out of the way, or G6 out of the way. Let's move on to the Power Four, the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's start with the second best conference in college football, the Big Ten. Michigan. Michigan had a very controversial offseason when it comes to like actual hires. Uh, but they hired where the heck is this? Who they hired? I'm just kidding. I know who they hired. They hired Kyle Whittingham as their next head coach. And what is it? It was a very interesting hire because Kyle Whittingham actually retired. Um, a- actually retired right before that after being at Utah for as long as he was, and then he unretired to come to Michigan. So honestly, I think this is a really good hire for Michigan. It's the best they could probably do in the circumstance. I mean, who was their other option? Brian Kelly, but Michigan though, honestly, that's a really good hire for them. I think Kyle Whittingham has a proven track record at Utah. I know he had that one season where they weren't great, but like that, to be fair, injuries were worked against them. That was 2024. But I think Michigan under Kyle Whittingham is going to be really good. I don't know if he'll be immediate that he'd make the playoffs, but like this team has playoff potential under Kyle Whittingham, and like they made the best possible hire they could. So I think this is honestly going to work out in their favor. Um, but I know Sharon Moore had his issues off the field and all that, which caused him to get fired. And considering Michigan had a really good season too, the season before we had. But Kyle Whittingham's got a lot to work with. It's a better program than Utah, as good of a football program as Utah's been. Michigan's definitely is for sure better. I mean, they've won a national title not that long ago. So yeah, but Michigan though, I think they got a lot of potential under Kyle Whittingham, and I think he'll be a really good coach there. So it's borderline S. I'll put it at A tier. But I think this is a really good hire for Michigan. Um, I might go. I'm only reason I'm not putting it S is because to be fair, he was committed to retirement, but we'll see. But I'm very. It's almost an S. I might move it later, but we'll see. But Michigan, I think, is in good hands with Kyle Whittingham. Yeah. I'll, but they made the best possible hire they could, honestly, considering the circumstances. But yeah, there's that. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'll say A tier. But Michigan State. Michigan State hired Pat Fitzgerald um to come coach for them. As he as he was at Michigan, he was at Northwestern for a while, and think he retired or something like that. And he had some success with he had a good amount of success in Northwestern, but the last 2 seasons he was there, um, it wasn't great. So, but I think with Michigan State, a team that's had success in the past, but even though they have not been good the last few years, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Michigan State hiring Pat Fitzgerald. Only thing that's a little sketchy is that he wasn't great at the end. But I'm gonna put this as a um, I'll put this as a B tier hire. I'll put it behind Charles Huff's hire, but I think Pat Fitzgerald has potential to get at Michigan State. Now we got UCLA. UCLA is going with Bob Chesney as their next head coach. Honestly, a pretty good hire. Bob Chesney is a former playoffs coach, so he led JMU to the playoffs, of course. And considering JMU is still brand new to the FBS, and he kept them in good shape after Signetti left, which is impressive. But I think UCLA under Bob Chesney is going to be a much better team, in my opinion. Let's see, real. Who's it? Who's Tim Skipper? I think it was, or Deshaun Foster. Deshaun Foster was the coach. Yeah, Deshaun Foster was not good, especially to start that season. They lost to two G5 teams, including crush at New Mexico at home. Granted, New Mexico and ULV were really good G5 teams, but still. But UCLA, though, in my opinion, I think under Bob Chesney, I think it's going to be a much better experience. So, I mean, he's a former playoff guy. I'm going to put this as a very high B tier hire. I think this is a good hire. We'll see how he does. We'll see if he can carry on his success in the G5. Now we got Penn State. Penn State went out and hired Matt Campbell to be their next head coach. And honestly, I think this is a pretty solid hire. I know Penn State had a lot of trouble finding next head coach. I'll give him this. They didn't go with Brian Kelly. I'll give him that. But Penn State, of course, fired James Franklin after a rough start to 2025 for them. But of course, James Franklin's at um, Virginia Tech now. We'll get to that at the very end. But Penn State, though, I think that they got all of Iowa State's players. I think, and shout out to Lucas Timbrock, by the way. He's the punter for them. He was in my elementary school. Went to elementary school with him. But yeah, but Penn State, I think that they're set to be a pretty solid team a better team next year. I think at least 8-4, 9-3 maybe. I think Penn State will be a pretty good team next year under Matt Campbell. I know Iowa State wasn't great well, they're good, but they weren't as good as like the year before that. Iowa State though, this Matt Campbell took Iowa State to heights they've never seen. Like took it to the Big 12 championship for the first time like 100 years, something like that, something outrageous. But overall, this is a good hire. I'm gonna give this one a B tier. Um, a very high B tier. Um, because I think that honestly, I mean it's almost an A, but it's almost an A. But if it was like 2024, I'd probably put an A. 20, after 2024, I'd probably put an A. Maybe I know Iowa State wasn't had their issues last year, but like they were a good team last year, man. But I think Big 12, big of course the Big 12 is Big 10's a whole new beast, but still, I think it's a very good hire. It's a very high B tier. Now we got Ole Miss. Ole Miss hired in house went the Pete Golding route. He was the defensive coordinator for Ole Miss. Of course, this happened after Lane Kiffin left. But Ole Miss, though, I think that Ole Miss is under really good hands with. I think they could be under good hands with Pete Golding. He showed a lot of potential last year. Like He went on to beat Tulane and Georgia in the playoffs, almost beat Miami. So there's that. But I think honestly, Ole Miss could be a decent team next, solid team next year. Pete Golding, but to be fair, Pete Golding has to reload a lot, has to rebuild from a lot of the Lane Kiffin stuff that's happened. But Ole Miss though, I think they did what they could with this hire. I'm gonna put this one as a B tier. I'll put it above Bob Chesney's hire, just a little bit. Yeah, I'll put it as a B tier. They might not be they'll be rebuild next year maybe, but we'll see. Now we have LSU. LSU had probably the most controversial hiring of the season. I don't, well, at least, well, I know Blake Anderson hired at Southern Miss, but in like how it happened, I guess. Lane Kiffin went on to go to is the new coach at LSU. And honestly, I might be a little biased with this. I'm an LSU fan, as y'all can see right here. There's my shirt. But yeah, but I got the other shirts back there too. But honestly, I think LSU probably did the best they could. I think LSU maximized the best they could with this hire. I think they went out and got a really good guy out of a playoff run too. Um, and honestly, this is a really good hire, I think. Lane Kiffin has proven he can be very successful. He led Ole Miss to their best season in their program's history, and he legit made Ole Miss a force to be reckoned with in the SEC. Like yes, I know he wasn't coaching the playoffs, but that's Lane Kiffin's team that he built. Lane Kiffin built that team, to be fair. And he has more, and honestly, LSU are probably a more successful football program in general. I mean, they have four national titles, of course. Maybe five if you count that one. That kind of counts, but I don't think it's technically claimed. But but you got LSU with a lot of success. That's a really good sign. I mean, he was able to retain Blake Baker from going to Tulane while bringing Charlie Weiss with him, and also he also got Ed Ogeron to come back to LSU, which is amazing. Go Tigers! Yeah, but this is a really good hire. And I think Lane Kiffin's got a lot of potential to be successful. I'm gonna put this one as an S tier. I think they made the best possible hire they could, honestly. So, yeah. Um, yeah, but I think LSU is in a really good spot for next year. No, we'll see. I think they could very well be a playoff team next year. They had a lot of the transfer portal. Anyways, Arkansas. Arkansas went out and hired Silver guy, Ryan Silverfield, a Silver guy, Silverstone, whatever it is, from Memphis. And honestly, a pretty solid hire. Memphis is one of the best G6 programs out there. Um, we see him have, of course, that's what got Mike Norvell the job at Florida State. He was great at Memphis. Yeah, Arkansas though. I think Arkansas. I don't know if Arkansas will be that good of a team next year, but I think hiring a guy like Ryan Silverfield, I think that's gonna. I think they can build under him. I think that's gonna be a solid hire. Arkansas, I think they will be better than last year. But they actually looked like they could be a good team last year. They just lost so many close games. It was insane, including to Memphis, ironically, where Ryan Silverstone was. But Arkansas though hiring a guy that literally beat them. Just like LSU did, I guess. But Arkansas though, I think honestly. This is a pretty solid hire. Um, it's not the best hire from the G5, but just G6 in my opinion, but I mean he did a pretty good job at Memphis, so I'll give this one a B tier. I'll put it in front of Charles Huffs. Yeah, here's that. Now we got Auburn. Auburn went out and hired Alex Golesh to be their next head coach. Um, of course he has previous SEC experience because of course Hugh Freeze was not doing the job. And of course, well, Arkansas fired Sam Pittman, but yeah. But Auburn hiring Alex Golesh, it's the best they could have done. They got some good players out of it. They got Byron Brown. I think Auburn has the most potential to actually be a decent team for the first time in a very long time, at least since Gus Malzahn was so successful there. But Auburn, I think they'll be pretty. I think they could be a pretty good team next year. They might go like 7-5 next year, which is better than what they've been. Maybe they'll be Alabama this year. I'll make this as a B tier hire. I know I'm putting him in front of Arkansas. I believe Memphis actually beat South Florida, but still, I think Auburn has more potential to be successful under him. So yeah, but I'll put it as a B tier higher. Um, Now we got Florida. Florida went out and hired John Summerall to be the next head coach. I think that's arguably the best candidate from a G5 school. John Summerall did a really good job with Tulane, put him into the playoffs last year. My only concern with this one is that he won a lot of close games last year, like Army and some other games are very close, like the Duke one was. I mean, Duke beat two Power Four teams, including crushing Northwestern last year as a G5, as a G6 team. That's pretty impressive. I guess G5 last year, but still. I think Florida honestly could be a pretty good team under John Summerall next year. I know he's got a very similar resume to Billy Napier, but this dude's actually been in the playoffs, so honestly, I'll give this one I'll give this one a B tier. I'll put it in front of Pete Golding. Actually, I'll put it right there in front of Tim Skipper. Not Tim Skipper. That was the interim coach. Bob Chesney. I'll put it as a B tier. I think that's a good hire for Florida. I think they could be successful next year. A very storied football program that has not been as good last few years, though. Now we got Kentucky's. They hired Will Stein from Oregon, um, to be their next head coach. He was the offensive coordinator at Oregon. Honestly, Kentucky could use someone with offense, use some better offense at this point. And they got shut out by Louisville last year. They had a lot of games. Even then when they won, like they beat Auburn, but they only scored 10 points in that game. Like if Kentucky can get their offense fixed, they could actually be a really good team. I think Will Stein's a very underrated hire for Kentucky. So honestly, I think it could be a good. I think they could be good under Will Stein. But yeah, but I think this potentially be to go pretty far. I'm gonna say this one is a B tier hire. I'll actually put it in front of Arkansas's. Um, just because I think they addressed their need more properly. Actually, yeah, I'll put it in front of Arkansas's. Yeah. And now we have Cal. Let's move on to the ACC. Now we have California. Um, Cal hired Tosh Lapoy, I think is his name. It's a very interesting name. A good name, but a cool name. But a cool name, but a weird name. Tosh Lupoy, who was a defensive coordinator at Oregon last year. I think this one's a solid one. I know their defense was inconsistent last year. Like they shut out Texas Tech. They shut out Texas Tech, but then they go on to let Indiana score 55. So I mean, I think Cal was 7-6 last year, but they're a very fluky team last year. I mean, they beat teams like SMU and all that, but they lost to really bad teams like Virginia Tech and Stanford, which I can rock are two next two teams or two the next or actually two the next two teams on here we're gonna get. But Cal, I think hiring a guy like him, I think will be good. Um, I will put this one in a B tier. I'll put it behind Memphis hiring Charles Huff. Actually, I'll put him above that. But yeah, I think Cal could be a decent team next year. But yeah. So anyway, Stanford. Stanford went out and hired the quarterback coach from Washington Commanders with Tavita Pritchard. This one's a interesting hire. They went quarterback coach instead. Um, which I mean, I thought at one point Andrew Luck would be the coach of this team, but I mean, Stanford has been a dead football program for a while now. Of course, they had that controversy with their last coach. I forgot his name, but yeah, they actually made improvement under Frank Reich last year. I'm surprised Frank Reich didn't get any offers. Like, he could have been the next UAB coach at this rate, but Frank Reich. Yeah, because I remember he's bad. He was terrible at the Panthers, but yeah. Um, but Stanford, but like they got Tabitha Pritchard. I think that's a solid hire. And I think there's an interesting hire. I think that could go either way though. Because I think that Stanford, I think Troy Taylor, I think was the guy who was the coach at Stanford last time. But not before he got fired, of course, for misconduct, but for whatever it was. But Stanford though, I think with Ty Pritchard, I mean, he was the quarterback coach for Jaden Daniels. We all know how good Jaden Daniels is. Obviously, he's really good. Go Tigers, but him going to a college program, it's a big test for him. I think he can manage it well. We'll see. I'm gonna put this one as a C tier higher. I'll put this one above I'll put this one above Coastal Carolina's higher. But I think it's an interesting hire, but we'll see what happens. I mean, NFL, college football are very different. Just ask Bill Belichick. But yeah. Now and then we have four more teams. We got two more ACC teams. Let's talk about Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech has not been good the last few years. Brent Pry, which is not great. Brent Pry actually got rehired as, I believe, the defensive coordinator, I'm pretty sure. Something like that. Yeah. But Virginia Tech went out and got James Franklin, which I think, honestly, for Virginia Tech, that's a really good hire. I know James Franklin had trouble being clutch. I know that the team wasn't that good last year, but like James Franklin, he'll be in a much more manageable conference, in my opinion, because I think the ACC is not as good as the SEC. But like, I think Virginia Tech under James Franklin's got a lot of potential, and yeah, there's that. But Virginia Tech, though, I think Virginia Tech, I think it would be a really good team next. I think they could be a really good team next year. They got a lot of Penn State players. I think that Ethan Grunkmeyer, I'm pretty sure is the quarterbacks, who showed potential last year when Drew Aller was hurt. But yeah, but Virginia Tech's got a lot of potential to be really good next year. I mean, based on the ACC is they might as well win the ACC. Although I think Miami's going to win the ACC, but assuming they don't get upset twice again by SMU and Louisville. Yeah. But Virginia Tech, though, Virginia Tech, I think it's a really good hire. I'm going to say this one's an S tier hire. Yes, I know that James Franklin did not got fired from Penn State. I know that things did not go well last year. James Franklin's proven he can be really, really good. I think for a guy like him, I think going up to the ACC will be really good for him. So I think Virginia Tech did really well with this hire. It's definitely borderline on A as well, but yeah, I think it's a really good hire for them. Um, but like I think the I think he's gonna be really good. But I think he's got a lot. I mean, dude took Penn State, and to be fair, he took Penn State to the playoffs, like, and got him really far in the playoffs. I know, yes, they're playing SMU Boys State, but still, James Franklin's got a lot of potential. Still, I think he'll be great at Virginia Tech. Now we are going. That's not least at the Big 12. We have actually there's three more teams. Yeah, we got Iowa State on the next one. Iowa State went out and hired um, Jimmy Rogers from Washington State. Um, I'll be completely honest. This hire was weird. Um, it's a weird hire, but I mean, they really had to like crack down on options, obviously. So I thought they'd promote someone in house, but I mean, they got Jimmy Rogers, a guy that's got potential to be a pretty good coach. But yeah, but I mean, he was okay with Washington State his first year. Let's see, uh, Jimmy Rogers, the the coach, bro. I mean, where was he? Who was at? I can't tell what school that is, but let's see. Oh, South Dakota State. Um, yeah, but this is a guy that's progressing really quickly through the ranks. Um, but I think honestly, they might be kind of quick for it's an interesting hire, but he's got potential. But at the same time, you look at Washington State last year. Yes, they had to rebuild from a lot, but like, I mean, they were still eligible, but like, there was still a lot of interesting things that happened last year. They almost beat Ole Miss. I'll give them that. So, and they almost beat Virginia. They got better throughout the season, honestly. Like, I think Wazoo's got potential. I think Iowa State's got potential under him. Um, I'm gonna put. I know they went 6-6, but honestly got much better as the season went along. I know they got no crush on North Texas, but yeah. I think for a guy like him, I'll put this one. Um, I'll put it in C tier. I'll put it in front of Missouri State, but I mean, it's a. I think Iowa State's gonna be a complete rebuild next year. They might not even be a good team next. They're probably not gonna be even a good team next year if I had to guess. But I think Jimmy Rodgers eventually could level up to be a good coach. Now I have Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State did a very good job in the coaching carousel as they went out and got Eric Morris from UNT. And honestly, I think this is a really good hire. I think Eric Morris has got a lot of potential to be a really good coach in the Big 12. We saw what he did with North Texas last year. Like, that was a really good North Texas team. He brings a lot of it, almost all of his players from there. Here, like that's a very interesting, very intriguing thing. So. I think Oklahoma State, for a team like Oklahoma State that just needs anything they can get, I think they did the best they probably could in this case. Like they got a guy who's not terribly far away from from Oklahoma State. Yeah, I think this is a good hire. I think Eric Morris has got a lot of potential to be really good there. I think for Oklahoma State situation, I think that I think Eric Morris is probably going to be. I think I'm willing to bet he's going to be really good. I'm gonna put this in A tier. Yes, I know I put teams that he literally beat, but SEC is much in Big Ten much harder. The SEC and Big Ten teams, to be fair, and like that's gonna be much harder to compete. Not saying that, and plus they weren't in like the worst. Not saying Big 12 is bad. The Big 12 is a great conference, obviously, and also these teams weren't in like the worst situations ever. But Oklahoma State was in the worst situation they've probably been in forever. But I think like Eric Morris think will really help. So I think that's gonna an A tier higher. Last but not least, we have Kansas State, who went out and this is a really cool hire. Considering he used to play for Kansas State. But this is a really cool hire as they got a Colin Klein uh from Kansas State and I promoted because he was the offensive coordinator for Texas A&M. For a team like Kansas State was a very weird team last year. They were competitive, but a lot of teams means they did not win though. They couldn't win. They lost like they had some weird losses last year. They lost to freaking who was it? They lost to Army dog. And Army lost the week after Army lost to Tarleton State. Kansas State, though, I think Kansas State's gotten better as a football program. They weren't great last year, but like there were a lot of games they look competitive in that they could have won. Like you look at Kansas State from last year. Let's see, Kansas. Okay, let me get like FBS schedules. But Duke is really good at Texas A&M. The offense was really good last year. They got through Blake Baker's defense by a lot of points. Yeah, it's the night Brian Kelly got fired. Yeah, it's the same game that caused Brian Kelly to get fired, but still. Like they were able to drive through that defense, which is pretty impressive. Um, and honestly, from a fan standpoint, from a K State fan standpoint, it's a really cool hire considering he used to play for the team. But he's very familiar. Like you look at Kansas State, all their games were so close last year, but it was insane. Like except the Kansas one, they crushed Kansas. But like they lost to Iowa State by 3 and then beat North Dakota by 3, which is North Dakota we're talking about. They're great FBS. They're a great FCS team. No doubt about that. Like they're a good FCS team, but but when you're going to get but Kansas State is a Power Four program, and then they lost to Army by 3, and then lost to Arizona by 6, and that Arizona team was actually good last. It was actually a good team last year. Beat UCF by 14, and then they barely lost to Baylor by 1, and then they went out and beat TCU by 13, which was like, okay, Kansas State actually has a team that can win. Then they went on to crush Kansas like they always do. Seems like. And then lost to Texas Tech. That was like their one game that wasn't their one loss that wasn't that close. Granted, it was Texas Tech, but still. But like they barely beat Oklahoma State, and then they lost to Utah by 4, who's a really good team. They beat Colorado by 10. Colorado wasn't that good. But Kansas State was a very weird team last year. They were inconsistent, seemed like. But like they either win closely or lose closely. No, it seems like there's barely anything in between. Kansas State, though, I think hiring Colin Klein's a really cool hire. Due is that I know that Texas Tech or Texas A&M struggled in that game last year. Granted, it was win. A lot of it was the win, but still. Colin Klein, though, at at Kansas State, I'm gonna put this one. I'll put this one as a B tier hire. I think I'm actually yeah. I'll put this one right here. I think Colin Klein has potential to be really good. And I think I'm putting again extra points considering he used to play for Kansas State. So yeah, that's definitely something to note. That's something that's definitely something that's very notable. So yeah, but I think that'll end up being a pretty solid hire. Anyways, there you go. This is my tier list. Agree, disagree. I know some of y'all are gonna disagree. Yeah. A lot I'm not by the way, this isn't based on who I think will be the better head coach for the team, like the better better teams necessarily. It's that and also that's a factor, but it's also like the considering the situations the teams are in. So yeah, like you consider like Kent State was practically an HE double hockey stick, and LSU wants playoff success and get a really high profile guy. And Virginia Tech just needs someone that can win. Yeah, like I think this is honestly a solid tier list. Yeah, but overall though, yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. Hope y'all enjoyed. Oh man, it's a long video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Have a nice day and goodbye. See y'all in the next one. Peace.